Today, I welcome a person that has written a book that literally blew my mind away. And the funny thing is, I thought her book was going to be the hardest part of my research. But I leapt out of my chair when I saw she had an audio version because my ADD is awful right now. And I was worried about having to actually read a book cover to cover by the weekend. And then I saw that she narrated it herself. And soon her outside persona as a badass drummer in a female Led Zeppelin tribute band, which is what brought me to her in the first place, that slipped away to a spiritual guru that I found her to be. So welcome to the show, Clementine Moss, drummer for the band. Let me, am I pronouncing this right again? Is it
Zepperella?
Zepperella? Thank you. I didn't have it written in front of me and then I messed it up. She's a drummer for the band Zepperella. It's a Led Zeppelin tribute band, but she's also author of the book From Bonham to Buddha and Back. So thank you for coming on the show, Clem.
Thank you so much, Matt. This is going to be fun.
Oh, yeah. I'm super excited about it. I'm a musician myself, 23-year veteran public music teacher, and many of the obstacles you face as a performer that you talked about in your book, it hit me close to home. The self-doubt about before you take the stage, or a lot of times in my field before my group goes to perform, those self-doubt feelings kick in, thoughts of not being good enough or feeling underprepared. But I felt comfortable hearing how you express these feelings, and I think a lot of veteran musicians, no matter their large accomplishments, probably feel them too. So today I was kind of hoping our focus today would be going on a journey of a musician in a band, but also finding spiritual healing in the process, which I never really thought too much about. But I will say your book really, it really was starting to stir my brain. I wasn't expecting for it to get turned around so much. So I really appreciate that you wrote it and I got a chance to listen to it. So it was very helpful. So I'm going to start where I always start with people. Let's start at the beginning. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Matt, for taking the time to listen to the book. That means a lot to me. And, I kind of spill everything there. So, we're starting from a place where we know each other in a way. And I've been listening to your podcast. So we do kind of have a head start,
Yeah,
so that's
I
good.
feel like I already know you just from listening to the book for like the 4 days. I was like, oh, yeah, I know Clem.
That's right. That's right. Well, let's see. I was born in Anaheim, California, and I grew up in Southern California, in Orange County, California.
I myself was born in West Covina in LA County, and which is where I spent the first 11 years of my life. And now we live in North Carolina. But
I was listening to you say that, and I thought how cool it was that you. I don't know when you develop accents, but I love your North Carolina drawl. So I guess that was came to you in your teens, right? And young teens.
Well, you're around something for sooner or later, and I guess you kind of pull it in. And it's funny for you to say that I have a North Carolina draw, because people here will say, well, I know you're not from the South. You don't have an accent. The locals here, I've heard that repeatedly, like, well, you don't sound like you're from the South. And then I'm like, yes, I still got the West Coast sound. But probably not. I've been here for 30 years, so it's hard not to sort of sound a little bit. Yeah, very hard.
Yeah.
So where do you stay now? Where do you live now?
I'm in San Francisco.
San Francisco, yes.
Yeah, I grew up in California. I went to school in Santa Cruz, California, and then when I was 21, I moved to New York City and lived there for 14 years, and then met my husband and ended up relocating in California again, which I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought I would be an East Coaster from then on, but you never know where life will take you.
Yeah. Deep down, I can't wait to be a West Coaster again, especially maybe Northern California when it's mildly cool most of the time.
It's perfect weather. Yeah.
These summers over here, I'm in North Carolina, man, these summers they're awful.
I can't take
I
it. I
no,
can't take the humidity. It drives just
no,
it's too much for me. I'm such a complainer.
yeah. All right. So you had mentioned going to New York. That's where I kind of wanted to start today. Um, so what made you want to drop everything in Santa Cruz and get up and go to New York?
Well, I'd always kind of had this, I was an avid reader as a kid, and New York I felt like I was kind of destined to go there. It was always where all of my favorite writers ended up at some point in their career, and I felt like I was kind of just being drawn there. So when I was in college, it was a plan of mine pretty early on that I would move to New York after I graduated, and I actually, after my second year of college, I was really antsy to move, and I thought, I'm not going to finish this, and I'm just going to move now. But I figured out I could graduate in 3 years rather than four, so I moved to New York when I was
Wow.
21. And Yeah, it was mostly because I saw myself as a writer, and that just felt like the center
Yeah.
of the universe in writing. Yeah.
So was that what your degree was in? Was it in writing?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, creative writing and English literature. Hmm.
I, as a parent standpoint, that's just as bad as telling your parents that I want to be major in music. You're like, what are you going to do with that when you get out of school?
Well, it's funny because I guess I'm still of the generation that, when I was growing up, I just thought education was in order to teach yourself how to think, and it wasn't
Right.
the trade school that it's looked at now,
Now,
which
yeah.
was good and bad.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
wish that I had paid attention a little bit more to how I was going to make a living, so I could do something that I actually enjoyed to make money for a long time rather
Right.
than dumb jobs. But that was a
Yes.
choice that I made too. So.
Yep. That's what I tell my daughter. She's in college now. And I was like, said, make sure you're doing something that you love to do. Don't do something that you feel you have to do or you're stuck in.
Hmm.
That's how I sign off the podcast every day is find something you love and get to it.
That's
Making
good.
sure
That's
you're
great.
doing what you're loving. All right. So
Yeah.
you get to New York. You weren't doing any kind of music yet when you moved to New York, right?
No, I wasn't. I really, I moved to New York. I was, pretty naive, really. I just
Yeah,
thought I
who
would move to
isn't
New York and
naive
be.
when they first at that
I
age,
know,
right? You
I
think you
know.
know it.
That's right. I know you can't hear it. You can't listen to what anybody tells you
No,
either.
you can't.
I know, but yeah, I got to New York. I just started working, as a waitress, bartender, and trying to write. And I had a lot of real self-doubt. I've kind of battled with that a lot of my life, so, and it was particularly strong in my 20s. So um, I felt like I was kind of floundering around, and felt like I hadn't lived. I didn't know what I was
Right.
supposed to be writing about, and so I wanted more experience in life, I guess. And I also started to really kind of long for a creative outlet that involved other people. Sometimes I
Yes.
would think like, I wish I was like a sculptor or something so I could at least listen to the radio when I was working
Yeah.
instead of just in a room with my head and a pen and a piece of paper or a typewriter. So,
Right.
and I had musicians around me, and I just kind of fell into considering that as it was funny because I feel like I might have even thought, if I was a musician, I'd be able to travel for work, so maybe I should
Yep.
learn an instrument. and then
Right.
and then drums found me when I was 27, and the rest was kind of history. Yeah.
Nice. So what did make you decide that drums was the instrument you were going to throw yourself into?
Well, kind of through a series of circumstances, I thought, I sat down at a drum kit, and my boyfriend at the time said, well, here, do this and do that. And I thought, wow, I don't know anything about drumming. As a kid, I'd played piano and flute and tried to play guitar and, all of these different instruments, and
Hmm.
nothing ever really stuck. Um, but drums were something completely foreign to me, and that was kind of interesting. So
Right.
somebody gave me the name of a wonderful drum teacher, and I started taking private lessons. And pretty soon I realized that I had a real affinity with drums, and it just made sense to me.
Right. Right. Right.
So it just captivated me kind of from the beginning. Like I felt like I found my instrument.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's always neat when somebody finds like maybe not their person, but they find their niche. There's something that you're like, oh, I found a reason why I might exist, and it's to do this. And I really love it, and I'm really good at it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's
Uh-huh.
great.
Yeah. 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 It
Uh,
was
where
neat.
where did you get your first drum set?
Let's see. My boyfriend at the time, he was a recording engineer and a musician, and I remember joining my first band. I answered a ad in the Village Voice, and I joined a band, and I needed a drum set, and he had a friend in Detroit who had a drum set that's where he's from, that I could buy. And so I bought
Yeah.
this drum set. I drove to Detroit and back with this drum set for my first show.
Wow.
So yeah, I still have that drum set. It was a little tiny Rogers kit from like 1960, I think, seven. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I still have it.
How long did it take from starting drum lessons to playing a show? How long did that take?
I think it was about a year and a half. Yeah.
Oh, that's not bad. I teach drum set. I've had a couple of students. I bought a drum set maybe 2 or 3 years ago. My daughter, she plays cello,
Mm,
and but our school, don't get me started on music in our at our high school, local
mm,
high school.
mhm,
But
mhm.
they only have orchestra half the year, and it's only offered one
Oh
semester.
gosh.
So the
Oh,
second
that's a
semester, she
shame.
still wanted to play, so she signed up for the concert band class in hopes that she could play cello to the trombone part or the baritone part. She could play those lines. But
Hmm.
the teacher was like, we need another drummer. So
Mm,
she threw her on drum set to play. And so another kid was showing her kind of the ropes and what to do, but he just hogged the set the whole time, right? She didn't get to play much. So I bought a drum set off Facebook Marketplace for her to
mhm.
practice. And did she ever practice? No. It's typical
Practicing
teenage
drums
passion.
is not very fun. I don't find it
Nope.
very fun. Yeah,
I
it's a
made a
communication instrument. Yeah.
Yep, I made a spot out here in the garage. And I set it up, and I was like, "You're ready to go. You could practice." I was so excited because of myself. Always thought I was like drum set is something I could do, and so I
Hmm.
was excited to buy one because I was like, "Oh, I get to play too." But she never played, so then I started giving lessons on it. So I've made my money back on it, but uh,
Oh,
I
yeah, that's
I
good.
still need to put some more work on it. And the students that I have, nobody is going to be ready to play a show in a year and a half.
Yeah,
uh,
it's well, for one thing, I was 27 years old, so I was motivated,
yes.
to figure it out. And then, I was living with my boyfriend at the time, and he had been, he was an incredible musician who could kind of play anything. So, when I came home at night, or he had a day off, I would sit down at the drums and he'd play guitar or something. So I was
Yeah.
playing along with somebody, which always makes it
It's
good.
helpful.
And then
Yes.
my teacher, when I went to him, he's an amazing teacher named Fred Klatz. He taught out of the Drummers Collective in New York City, and still teaches drums, private lessons. And he was writing a book on how to teach drumming. And he said, okay, you're kind of my perfect guinea pig because you know some music, but you've never played drums. So let me see how quickly I can get you to play well. And
Right.
so I lucked out to find such a magical teacher. Yeah.
Yes. That is all the help when you find somebody that really invests their time
Hmm.
in you.
Yeah.
So what kind of bands did you play with in the beginning? What kind of music were you playing?
Well, I've always played, rock and roll kind of music.
Yeah.
I have a good backbeat. So, the first band I was with a singer-songwriter, who played, kind of singer-songwriter songs,
Right, right.
rock songs, kind of based in, the 90s kind of aesthetic. So, I was playing with him, and then I was working again with my boyfriend at the time. We were kind of writing songs together, and then I joined a like pop punk band that ended up
Yeah.
becoming the band that I toured with through the United States and Europe. That
Nice.
it didn't stay pop punk. We
Right,
ended
right.
up pretty quickly becoming like a stoner rock band, hard rock band.
Nice.
Hmm.
Now, how supportive were your parents about being in New York and taking up drumming and going out on your own? How was that for them?
Well, I'm fortunate in that I had parents who they're wonderful parents where they were just always supported no matter what I did. And
Yeah.
they always said, we have no expectations for what you're going to do. Just do the best that you can be, like be the best you can be at
Right.
whatever it is you choose. So, and they always knew I was an oddball. So, I don't think they were that happy with me moving across the country, but they kind of knew that they couldn't stop me.
Right.
So my dad died right when I started taking drum lessons. So I think, he was a big musical. He loved music a lot when I was a kid.
He
So
played bass,
he,
right?
he
If I remember from the
n-
book.
no,
No?
he wasn't a musician, but he just loved music. So he
Oh,
would crank it
gotcha.
up all the time. Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
Um, so yeah, so they were, they've always been really
Yeah,
supportive.
yeah.
And
Well,
now,
that's
when I play a show anywhere near Southern California, 40 of my family come and
yeah.
family and friends, they all rent a big vehicle and they all kind of
Oh,
party
well,
to the
that's
show and
nice.
party through the show. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that. It's always
Hmm.
good. I always like it when you get supportive parents because you never know what your kid's going to do if you
I
just
feel like
give
if
them
you,
the
yeah,
give them the space.
I feel like if you have supportive parents, you've won the lottery,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
because most of my friends, many of my friends did not have that. And I see
yeah.
how they struggled. Hmm.
I always think of David Grohl when he talks about his mom just letting him quit school and go drum. Right? It's like whose
Yeah.
parents are going to do that?
Hmm.
But if
Hmm.
not given the person the space, then we never would have gotten Nirvana. We never would have gotten a Foo Fighters.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Good job on your parents. It's always
Yeah.
good.
Right.
I try to remember those lessons with my kids. It's just to give them the space to do their own thing. Try not to hold them in so much. All right,
Yeah.
so
That's right.
let's talk about Zepperella a little bit. So your band is pretty well known. Zepperella, you guys have 105,000 subscribers on YouTube, 92,000
Hmm.
on Facebook, 11,000 on Instagram. I was going through TikTok this morning. There's all kinds of videos of people
Hmm.
posting from shows they were at for you guys. You have a really, really big following. The first video on YouTube is like 23 million, watches or something. The first one, so that's really, really impressive. Um, and I guess I'm just a little, just not aware that there are tribute bands that are that popular. I guess it just never really
Hmm.
occurred to me. I knew there were groups that went around, but you guys are big. Yeah.
Well, we've been doing
Uh,
it for 20 years,
yes.
so
You
yeah,
guys are
that's
really big.
one thing. Longevity
Yes.
does matter in the music industry. Yeah. Hmm.
So, how did the idea of Zepperella come around?
Yeah, well, I'd had the idea when I was in an original band called Bottom out of New York City. It was a three-piece female hard rock band, and we were known for really extensive touring. We toured continually through the year of 2000, and so, I had suggested to the girls that maybe we would play some Led Zeppelin songs, and kind of wrote out kind of a set list, and thought that it would be a cool thing to do on the side, and just to kind of fund the band. And
Right.
they didn't go for it. So then while that band was going on, and I had relocated to San Francisco, I was looking for something to do in the downtime. So I started playing in an AC/DC band,
Fun.
and that's where I met my guitarist Gretchen Mann, who I play with in Zepperella, have played with the whole time. So, again, in that band, we were saying that we wanted to play more often. And I said, well, hey, I had this idea for, to play Zeppelin, mostly because I wanted to learn Bonham's parts to make
Yeah.
myself a better drummer. And she said she wanted to learn the Jimmy parts. So, and we thought, okay, well, if we're going to do this, we might as well do it on stage. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we ended up creating Zepperella. And I think a lot of the reason that the band is so well known is because each of the people who have everybody who's ever been in the band has had a great solo career as well. Gretchen
Yes.
is a very successful composer, guitarist, and teacher. And every single person who's been in the band has really been music has been devoted to music. It hasn't been a
Yeah.
side thing. And so all of those influences really draw people to the project, I think. And yeah, so that's kind of how it all kind of happened. Yeah.
All right. So, where have you guys performed over the years? Has it just been here in the States, or do you guys get to travel across the ocean at all?
Well, we've been States and Canada, and right before the pandemic, we had I think had an opportunity that we were going to start touring in Europe, and that fell away with the pandemic. So
Right.
we're still kind of trying to get over. It's difficult because, like you said, you don't, mostly you think about cover bands or tribute bands as like the local band who plays in the,
Right. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the local bars. And, we've kind of moved to a bigger scale where we're playing bigger theaters or festivals
Yes.
or,
I was about to say,
state
you
fairs,
guys don't
things like
sound like a
that.
local band. Yeah. You sound nothing like a
Yeah.
local cover band. You guys are top notch.
Yeah.
That's for
Thank
sure.
you. Well, and so money is involved, the money is involved, right? So when you
Yes.
say, hey, we want to pay this much for a tribute band, unless you've really seen the band and kind of understand what's going on with the kind of show that we put on, you're going to be confused. So that's always been kind of a barrier to getting in certain places. But it grows and it changes
Yeah.
and it morphs. So
Right.
yeah, it's been successful, and I'm happy for that. Yeah.
Yeah. How often are you guys performing now?
Well, we try to do, we usually go out. This kind of band is a weekend band for the most
Yeah.
part. So we don't do tours. We have done like month-long tours, but, we've really come to do, say, 2, 3, 4 day weekends a month. Some months are more, some months are less. They're kind of seasons for us.
Right.
And like I said, everybody has like really active solo projects, so we have to kind of navigate around everybody's schedules as well. So I think
Right.
6 to 8 shows a month generally is what we end up doing.
Well,
And
that still seems like a lot of shows to me.
yeah, yeah, most of it is fly in too, so you have to
Yeah.
consider like all of the fly time and stuff. So
Wow.
um, yeah, so it's a good way to kind of keep steadily working.
Yes. What's the biggest venue you guys have played at before?
Well, we've played big festivals,
Yeah.
so, I would say 10 to 15,000 people at some of
Nice.
those. But, we can go, sometimes we play very small venues.
Right.
Tend to like the venues that are 3 to 500 seat. Those are kind of my favorites.
Yeah.
Um, so those are, we play a lot of theaters. There are a lot of, especially
Hmm.
on the Pacific coast, there's a lot of big old theaters
Yes.
that we play. But yeah, we play little rock clubs and we play, private parties that are really strange. We're playing
Yeah.
in, corporate environments, or we really play, we'll play the Illinois State Fair in August. So we do stuff like that.
Fun. What's one of your favorite cities to go to and play at?
Well, with Bottom, we were huge in Asheville. We used to play in Asheville all the time.
Yeah.
I love Asheville, North Carolina. But for Zepperella, let's see, favorite cities. Well, Portland, Seattle, of course. We do really well. I love playing in New York City because we've played there
Yeah.
before. So to be able to, play it, we've played some sold out shows at a venue there. And that always means a lot to me because that's where I started.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but I've played in every state now. This year I played in Alaska. That was the holdout. So
Oh, I
so
could see that one being a holdout.
that was the holdout. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't believe I played Hawaii before I played Alaska, but that was the
Alaska.
last.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I try to play
um,
Hawaii as much as possible.
yeah, right. I know
Yeah.
somebody just mentioned, oh yeah, we want to bring you to Hawaii, and I was like, yes,
Yeah,
like
let's do it.
let's make that happen.
Um, the members of the band, you guys all live near each other or you guys spread out?
We're pretty spread out.
Yeah.
Well, Anna lives in San Francisco like me. Gretchen lives south of San Francisco, about 45 minutes. And Holly is in Los Angeles.
All right. So, how do you practice if you guys are spread out? Do you schedule like practice sessions or does everybody just know what they're doing so well now you don't really have to do that?
Yeah, we don't practice unless we're bringing new songs in. And at this
Right.
point, in a 2 hour set, Zeppelin songs, some of them are 12, 15 minutes
Yes.
long.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
it's really, really hard to switch the setup because
Yeah.
there are certain songs we kind of feel obligated to play. Everybody wants to hear it, like
Yep.
rock and roll, whole lot of love, and Kashmir,
Yep.
the Levy, immigrant song, right? So,
Yep.
I mean, right there, those songs are about an hour.
Yes. I was
So,
about to say,
it,
you've already hit an
yeah.
hour or so now, for sure.
So we have a lot of songs that we've brought in, kicked out, and so we don't really practice much anymore,
Right.
unless a new song is being brought in. Yeah, and sometimes we can do that at sound check.
Yeah. Now, do you guys have to pay any kind of royalties or license fees for playing Zeppelin's tunes?
We do when we put out, so we have 4 albums out, and with each of those, I've had to pay mechanical royalties
Right.
to Zeppelin. But the venues, the way that that works is the venues pay a fee to ASCAP and BMI to be able to play any music that they play in their venues. So that's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
incorporated in a venue fee.
Gotcha.
People think, oh, you've got 23 million hits on your YouTube channel, on that
Yeah.
video, like, that's a lot of money. Well, that all goes to Zeppelin. That we don't make any of
Yes.
that money.
Right.
So,
That's
yeah, so it's a labor of love. And,
yep.
when I think about, it's like, oh, well, you know, you're, living off of somebody else's music. Well, actually, we're giving them quite
We're
a
giving
nice
them a
chunk of
lot.
money.
Yes.
And spreading the word to a lot of people. Like, we have youngsters who come to our shows who've never been to a rock show,
Right.
so we're turning people on to Zeppelin too. And of
Nice.
course, if Robert Plant called me up and said, knock it off, I would knock it off. But,
And I was
so
gonna
far so
say,
good.
has Zeppelin acknowledged your existence yet?
Yeah, Robert Plant knows about the band, and has, we've gotten to meet him and stuff. So
Nice.
that's been
I was
nice.
about to
Yeah.
say, wouldn't it be great if some sort of some sort of performance together of some sort, or at least share the stage for a moment or something.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That would be
Yeah, that
really
would be
cool.
awesome. He doesn't, I think that he's not really somebody who tends to look back a lot, you know. I mean, I know
Yeah.
he does play Zeppelin songs, but he always does them quite differently when he's working
Yes.
with, you know, his other projects. So he seems like a very forward moving musician.
Right. Leave the past in the past to go ahead.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, for sure. So if somebody wants to find your material, what's the best place for them to go to find Zepperella?
Well, Zepperella is Zepperella.com, and it's spelled like Barbarella, not Cinderella. So it's
Yeah.
Zepparelle. Yep, Zepperella. Yeah, and then my all of my stuff is at clemthegreat.com.
Clem the Great. Yeah. Yeah. If you go through YouTube, there's all kinds of great performances to watch them do their thing. If you search them on any social media, there's all kinds of video clips where people have posted from concerts they've been at. Just really, really great stuff. Really great stuff.
Mm, thanks, Matt.
Especially if you know, it's not like we can watch Zeppelin probably perform live anymore. But if
Hmm.
you love the music, and you can check out where can they go to find out where you guys perform at? Where's the best place to find your performances?
Yeah, it's Zepparella.com. And, you know, we're on Bounds in Town and, you know,
Yeah.
Facebook and, you know, all of the regular places.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely check them out. Really good
Thank
stuff.
you.
I want to talk about your book for a minute. And I know I've told you this before, but it's really a great book. Really,
Oh,
I
thank you.
really enjoyed it. I could really tell you put a lot of yourself into it, and
Mm.
I was glad that you were the one that read it too. So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
makes me. I
that was a
was
big deal.
getting ready for our meeting today. I was like, oh, okay. I feel like I've been talking to this person for a while because I
It's
have been
cool. I
talking
love
to
it.
you, but I've been
Yeah, I love
answering.
that.
Answering something in your book. You'll make a statement, and I'll be like, "That's right. I know exactly how you feel."
That's great. Thank you.
So what made you write a book? What made you want to put your sort of your experiences and putting them to paper?
Yeah. Well, let's see. So, you know, around the time I started playing drums, I started to get really involved in meditation, Eastern philosophy, those kind of pursuits, that kind of seeking. And
Right,
over time, I realized that my music career was a great metaphor for spiritual practice in a lot of ways. You know, I get on stage and, you know, there's some kind of difficulty. Either I'm at altitude or I'm not feeling well or there's something wrong with the drum kit. And I notice how, you know, having something like a problem for my mind to kind of obsess about can take me out of the music. Um, and that's very like when you're sitting in a meditation mat and, you know, you're in pain or something and you really just can't seem to get out of the circle of mind that's telling you that all of the reasons why you should stand up and not do it anymore, right? So,
right,
you know, I started to see that a lot of the two things were very intertwined in my life. And I was using meditative techniques while I was playing music in order to overcome some of the internal chatter that was taking me out of that place so that, you know, I wasn't enjoying myself or I was not able to really just kind of be a channel for the music to kind of flow through me. So,
right,
and to, you know, putting up a barrier to connection because playing music is really a connection with the audience, and all of that internal struggle was kind of taking me out of that really beautiful connection that happens between a performer and an audience. So I started writing a blog about those things in 2016. The blog is called Bliss and Drumming, and I would, you know, have a weekend away and I would come back and I would kind of write about the way that my, you know, spiritual practice kind of came into my experience on the weekends.
mm-hmm,
And uh, right before the pandemic, I had a thought of collecting some of those blog pieces into a book. And then the pandemic happened and gave me the opportunity and the time
Yeah.
to do that. And, I thought, oh, I'll just kind of, collect it as a collection of blog posts. And then pretty soon I realized, no, actually you have to do some writing, to kind of
Right.
make it into a book.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's how the book came out, came upon about. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure glad you did. It's quite lovely. Um, you have a lot of sort of like intertwined Buddhist stories, or I guess
Mm-hmm.
proverbs, and then you put them with the experience that you were having. You put the two together, and the story of the silent lady that was really loud at a meditation workshop you were went where you had to be silent. I think you said for 9 days, no talking,
Mm-hmm.
no
Mm-hmm.
gesturing, which just blows my mind because my head would just like races all the time. It's constantly
Mm-hmm.
talking to me, and I was like, 9 days. I don't know if I could go 30 minutes without talking to myself or something. And so the lady who you thought did everything loud, she breathed loud, she walked loud, and it was just annoying you the whole time and taking you, or at least you felt she was taking you away from the experience you're supposed to get from this workshop. Um, and then you tell the Buddha story of the guy meditating on a boat in a lake, and then another
Mm-hmm.
boat hits him and knocks him out of his meditation, and he gets up to turn around to yell at whoever hit him, and then nobody hit him. There was just an empty boat that just was sailing along, and he realized that his anger wasn't at the boat or who may have been in it, but it was inside him like the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you meet this lady who you thought has been bothering you the whole time, and she turned out to be a wonderful person, and you enjoyed speaking
Mm-hmm.
to her, and you're like, okay, I'm an asshole.
Yeah. Right. Oh, I'm the asshole.
And I was thinking, man, it just sort of like made my head blow up because, in teaching, we have, all of the kids are lovely, but some kids are more lovely than other children. And they can really just, get you going. And I'm thinking, and so it made me think, I was like, is it them that's the issue, or is it more of me that's the issue, and how I choose to react, or what I choose to say or be when I'm around them. So I got to thank you for telling. I hadn't heard that story before, and so yeah, that was what made me think quite a lot about how should I do things differently.
Oh,
Which
that's wonderful to hear because
and
I
then
feel like that's a great way to move through our lives, right? With that
right,
knowledge.
right, because I mean, if you want, if you want to change, if you want to change, or if you want someone else to change, then you have to start doing something differently to reach the outcome you want to get. And so I was thinking, if I want these kids to behave better, I was like, it made me think of how I should be before they come into my room, to hopefully set up
Mm-hmm.
something a little bit different. So it did make
Mm-hmm.
me do a little inner thinking on there as well. So I
Mm.
do glad you
Mm.
told that story because I was like, that's a good one.
Mm.
That's a
Thank
good one.
you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that resonated because it's that practice, of recognizing that, the anger is within you,
Right.
the judgment, the anger, that's all kind of your stuff,
Yes.
and the external is the thing that's kind of setting it off. Um, I think it really is the path towards a lot of the solutions in the world to problems that we think are really
Right.
intractable.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I need to like I was listening to your book and I was like, all right, everybody in our Congress needs to listen to this thing and take heart some of these stories. I was like, come on,
Thank you.
man. We could solve so many problems if you just shut up and listen every once in a while, you know.
Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah.
And that leads me to the next bit about your book is one of the big aspects I got from listening to it was how much you listen and
Mm.
listen to everything, birds, the room, people, whatever's going around, and how much you can get if you just sit and listen. And I was thinking, man, that's a drummer right there, because that's a drummer's job, right? You have
That's
to take
right.
in everything, take in
Yeah.
everything, know when to come in, know when to stop, slow down, speed up, keep everybody together. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
a drummer. So one thing I want to ask is, you have talked about having I think you said shamanistic episodes or experience where drumming, where you leave yourself and everything just
Hmm.
kind of slows down and you can take in everything that's going around. And I'm thinking,
Hmm.
how I was like, how do you get there? Because
Hmm.
where the drumming, you're not even thinking about drumming anymore because you've left yourself and you're somewhere
Hmm.
else and observing somewhere else. It's like, how does that even happen? Because I can't, my head just rolls all the time. It never seems to want to slow down. So, and
Hmm.
then if you're doing that, how do you know when to switch gears drumming? If you're to listen for a cue to do this or do that, if you're
Hmm.
floating over here somewhere in enlightenment, how do you zap back in and still take care of what you need to do in the present?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So, well, it's related to meditation, right?
Yep.
So, those 10-day silent meditation retreats. It's funny because people get stuck on the not communicating thing, but that is actually the easiest part of it because it becomes this great relief that you can just be in this, you're like in a bubble of your own
Yeah.
thoughts, and you can really observe
Hmm.
what is going on with your thoughts. And that
Nobody
beca-
wants to be in
be-
a bubble of their own thoughts, Clem.
that's right. It's pretty much the most painful thing I've ever done, right?
Right?
Those things, yeah. But what happens in meditation is that we're putting kind of the front attention of our focus on a task, right? So for some people, they do mantra meditation, or they focus on their breath, or they're developing a kind of concentration so that they're
Hmm.
in the kind of meditation I do. We're focusing on sensation in the body, right? So I'm putting my mind at the top of my head, and I'm kind of just observing sensation. Like, how does this part of my head feel? And then I kind of move in my mind all the way down my body, right? So that's what I'm focusing on. That's what my concentration is on. When my concentration is on that, and I'm keep bringing my mind back to that, because your mind wanders away and you're continually developing this kind of focus concentration, what happens is you realize that you actually have two parts of your consciousness. One part is that focused concentration, and that's, I think, a lot of the time what listens to our thoughts. But then behind that focus concentration is this kind of wider awareness that is just um, silently just observing and listening to everything. It's the part of yourself that's watching you try to concentrate, right? That's watching you bringing your mind
Right.
back. That awareness, that wider awareness, is the great gift of those meditative practices, because that awareness is beneath the thoughts. It's a kind of knowing. It's not a it's not connected to language. So our language is in our that constant flowing thought thing.
Right.
And when you're in that awareness and you're observing your thoughts and you're not reacting to them, you start to really see what they're doing. And most of what our thoughts are doing is they're telling us to be afraid, because our
Yes.
thoughts are there. I like to see our thoughts as like a physiological process that rises up from our DNA and our experience. And what our thoughts are telling us most of the time is to be afraid of change, be
Yep.
afraid of what is new, be afraid of, and the reason for that is because it's coming from, if it's a physiological process, it's like your body speaking to you, like, keep breathing, you know, don't let your heart rate get too fast. Make sure you're digesting your food, like all of these things, right, that your body wants to happen. And so your body wants you to play it very safe. And so we kind of get into this fear-based, these fear-based thoughts. So being able to observe those thoughts without reacting to them means that you then open up to this awareness, so that if I'm sitting in meditation and I'm doing this concentration practice, I'm also hyper aware of what's happening in the room around me. It's like a pure awareness where I'm not judging anything. I'm just kind of in it, which is a perfect analogy, again, of playing music. Because if I can just, play the song as I've practiced it, as I know it, without stressing out, like, oh gosh, that hit was too slow, or I didn't do that fill right, or who came to the show, or what's the next song, all of those things that take me out of the present moment, and I play from that wider awareness, then it really is like I am the song. Like the song is playing through me. There's no
Right.
right or wrong. And so I'm hyper aware of what comes next. I'm hyper aware of the cue for the next thing. And yet there's no anxiety about it. There's no anticipation. There's no story in my mind about how well I've been doing and how I might mess up. It really is just full presence. And I think that's what they talk about when you're talking about a flow state, when people are
Yeah.
athletes and they're not really thinking, they're just in
They're just
doing,
in the
and their
zone.
body becomes a machine for the motion.
Yep.
So I think that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
You get in that spot. Yeah, very, I guess impressive is the wrong word, but it's a very enlightened place to get to, which I mean, just like I think anybody that is really great at something, it's putting in the time and putting in the work. And yeah, the meditation, making everybody sit with their own thoughts. That probably a good idea for more people to do.
It's
Yeah.
I think it enables us to, you hear about mindfulness all the time, and really what that means is to just be fully present in our moments without judging, without fear. And that
Yeah.
means, real true connection with our lives. And that does create happiness and peacefulness. Yeah.
That's great. So I'm going to ask you a couple of fun questions
Great.
here. What's your favorite brand of drums or line of
Ludwig.
drums?
Yeah, I
Ludwig
like
drums.
Ludwig. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was a high school marching band director for a number of years,
Mm,
and we did pearl drums, but we kept getting
great.
Ludwig heads. We would get the drum
I'll tell you,
heads.
I am not a gear person.
Yeah,
It's like I know what I know, which is very little. I'm not somebody. I have friends who are encyclopedic about the years of drums and the kinds of
yeah,
drums, and
yeah.
that's not me. I've never been that interested. I find what works and I go with it. Yeah.
Yeah, we liked the Ludwig Hegs. They had a better sound, and the muffling was better with them than
Mm.
the ones that came with the pearls. Oh,
Oh,
and
great.
I got to take a tour of the Ludwig factory where they made timpanis a few
Oh, how
years back. That
neat.
was really fun to see the process from the
Wow.
copper kettle would come in, as just the short of this shiny looking thing, and then they would put
Uh-huh.
everything together, the line, and it was all mostly by hand. The timpanis, there
Yeah.
wasn't a lot of automation to it. Most of it
Oh,
was, somebody was at every station. It would get moved around. They had the
how
wood
cool.
to bend for the drum heads. They would soak them and turn them, and so
Wow.
it
Oh,
was
what a
somebody.
treat. Where is that place?
I was here in North Carolina, the Ludwig factory. I think it was in Asheboro. I
Mm,
think we
mhm.
went, and they invited us to come down. A lot of the local music teachers. We got to tour,
Neat. Oh,
so
how
that was
cool.
fun. So there you go. So I was like Ludwig. Yeah, I like those people.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
like those
That's
people.
great.
So I mentioned I teach drum set a little bit too, but
Yeah.
I'm not much of a drum set player. But most of all the students I have are know absolutely nothing. So I try to get
Mm,
them to some sort of point, and then I'm like, all right, if you want
mhm.
to do all this extra fancy bit, I might tell you to go somewhere else and have someone else
Yeah,
take
yeah.
over from that bit. What advice would you give for a teacher that working with, like I've got students that struggle with just like a steady beat. You put on a
Uh-huh.
metronome and we warm up and tap to the metronome, and they struggle just as hit right with a metronome at like 90
Uh-huh.
beats per minute. What kind of advice would you give to help get those kids to hear a beat and to stay with it?
Well, I like, I'm not a teacher. I very much admire teachers. And I know that, I'm not, that there's so many much better teachers. Advice I give to any, parent looking, for advice about their child who wants to learn an instrument is to find a teacher that just lights you up. So I have
Yeah,
great, I just have great respect for teachers, and the teachers in my life, I just really idolize. So, as far as keeping a beat, what I would maybe try is realize that, anytime that I've even talked to somebody about, showing them how to play drums, I say, just first of all, just walk and clap. Because, we
I
think
hadn't
that,
thought about
you
that.
sit down at the drums and you get so kind of
Yep.
worked up that there's an apparatus, but anybody can play drums if you can,
Yeah.
like walk and clap, with on every offbeat,
That's a
and
good
realize
tip.
that
I'll
that's
have
all
to
you're
do that.
doing. You're just removing the other hand and you're just kind of clapping. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for some people, movement really, like sitting straight and doing something, it doesn't make sense to them. They need to move their whole body in order to do it, like dancing. I see drumming as dancing behind the set in a way. Yeah,
Oh, I was just thinking of the student I have now, and I was like, all right, we're going to dance before we start our drum lesson today. This
that's
kid
great.
would probably run for his life. He's
Uh,
like, he's rigid. He's never played a single instrument in his life, but he told his mom that he felt like he wanted to learn how to play drums. And so she found
well,
me. Yeah.
the other thing too is counting.
Yeah.
Really connecting it for a kid like that, it might be very helpful to count. My nephew, when he was little, he was really kind of obsessed with numbers, and I said, that kid's a drummer. Like, and
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
enough, he's like an amazing drummer now. And a lot of it is just count to four and put the beat on the numbers. And sometimes the
Yeah.
way that people's minds work, the numbers will propel it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to have to try the tip with walking and clapping and see if
Hmm.
that helps him too. And I don't know about dancing. I don't know if he's ever danced. Maybe when he was 5. I don't think he dances now that he's 15.
Right, right, right. Yeah. Yeah,
We'll have to give
15-year-old
it a
probably
try.
dancing. Yeah, dancing won't really do it.
It's
But
funny.
sitting
His
down and dancing is,
right.
kind of the visual.
What was the very first Led Zeppelin song you learned to play?
It was the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned it, my teacher said, "Hey, bring a song in." And I thought, well, I'll bring a Zeppelin song in, even though I would never be able to play Led Zeppelin's music. And,
Right.
I brought it in, and there's a little foot triplet thing that I was like, well, that I'll never be able to do,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I never got to the place where I felt like I was playing it well in my drum lessons. It took, years of playing before I got to the point where I thought, okay, let me try to learn some songs. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything I got to do on my foot that's not on the beat just like gives me like just a brain hemorrhage. They
Work with the counting,
yeah,
just go really slowly and
yeah.
just, count the
I
one E and you'll do it. Yeah.
yeah, I know how to do it. I'm like, how come they just don't go? I know what to do, they just don't do it yet.
Yeah, right. It's slow and steady. That's the
Yeah.
only way. Yep.
What's been the hardest Zeppelin song to learn?
The hardest Zeppelin song to learn, I mean, they all have their challenges, and there are parts of Zeppelin songs that I don't do like John Bonham did because I'm not John Bonham, and
Right.
I'm not a maestro the way he was, but there's a song that we've never played live that I've been kind of every now and then I pick it up to get to the point, which is Achilles' Last Stand. It's really known as one of Bonham's kind of masterpiece drumming songs, and
Yeah.
I don't know that we'll ever do that live. When I started playing drums, somebody told me, I've been trying to play Zeppelin for 30 years and don't even try that song. It's really hard. And I kind of got that in my head. But during the pandemic, I was like, screw that. I'm going to learn that song.
We're gonna
So,
learn
I'm pretty far along with it, but I don't know that we'll ever play it.
it. Other than drums, what do you like to play?
Instruments?
Yeah.
Well, I love playing piano,
Yeah.
which I don't do formally. I just kind of love sitting down and making
Yeah.
shapes. And then, I'm a songwriter, so I work with electronic instruments and creating drum beats in, the computer that I can then play along with, writing songs, working with synths to create melodies and bass lines. And that is endlessly fun for me. So.
Well, you must be reading my mind because that goes right into my next question. Is that you put out your own album a little bit ago? What's your album called, and where can people find it?
Well, I've actually put out several albums.
Yeah.
I have the first album was maybe 12, 13, 14 years ago. It was when I decided that I wanted to learn. I was a lyric writer and I wrote an album for the Zepperella girls to record. As far as I wrote the lyrics for a whole album, and we recorded that, which we never ended up putting out. But after I did that, I thought, okay, I think I need to sing my own songs. So I started learning how to write songs with the
Yeah.
help of the computer. And so I put out a record called Francis Bacon. And then the next album was I started working with a guitarist named Justin Cockett, and that project is called Stars Turn Me On. And we've recorded, we had a album called Gold Rush. I did a EP with another album with Justin with a different group of people that was kind of hard Southern rock that was called The Solid. I worked with the guitarist from the AC/DC band Hell's Bells
Yeah.
called Beau Chevaux. That album was called Beau Chevaux. I just completed an album with the guitarist Daniele Guittardo, who is a wonderful guitarist composer. And I haven't put that album out yet, but that project is called Clem and Clearlight. I have a problem, which is that my when I was 20 years old or so, I dropped my last name, so I just went by Clementine my whole life,
Yeah.
and
Right.
so I that's hard because when Spotify came about and all of the internet music came about, it's really hard to have only one name because there's a lot of
Yes.
bands named Clementine and people named Clementine. So um and then with every project that I had a different name of the project: Francis Bacon, Stars Turn Me On, Solid, Beau Chevaux, and so now with the way that things work on the internet, you couldn't find any of my stuff because either it was the problem of just the one name Clementine, or it was the problem that they were looking for my music, but they didn't know what my project was called.
Right.
And then I put out when I started writing articles for Modern Drummer and other publications, I thought, well, a writer needs to have two names. So I was using my husband's last name, which is Moss. Um, and so now I'm in this kind of I was in this big quandary where my name was this goofy thing where it's like, what am I calling myself? I'm Clementine Moss some places and these other things. So what I'm in the process of doing is I took all of my original music off of the internet and I'm going to re-release everything under the name Clementine Moss so that you
There you
can,
go.
when you go to Spotify, you can hear all of my stuff. So
Gotcha.
long story short, I've officially changed my name now to Clementine Moss, and that's how everything's going to come up.
All
So
right. Well, I was just thinking because I went and started searching for stuff, but I was running into the same problem that
I
you had
know
mentioned.
it's
I was like, I
this
know it's
goofy
there
bureaucracy.
somewhere. Yeah, I know it's there somewhere.
I
But
know.
yeah, well, we can't
Yeah.
wait to hear some of that so you can get it out there.
I
Um,
know. I know.
yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Now, at the end of each of my podcasts, I usually ask about the same 6 questions, and I like
Okay.
to sort of see how people answer. So these are real simple. So just fire off whatever you think. What is your favorite smell?
My husband's neck.
Your husband's neck. I thought he was going to say your pug.
Well, he's 16 now. He's kind of smelly. I don't know.
Oh,
I
that's
love the
oh
way he
yeah
smells
yeah
when he's clean, but a lot of the
right.
times he's not very doesn't smell
What
very
is your
good.
favorite kind of drink?
Well, I haven't had any alcohol for over a year, but I will say it's 30-year-old Scotch.
Scotch. I
I
was
love
wondering
Scotch.
if you were going to be one of my alcohol people because a lot of people don't. But I was thinking, she's mentioned having a stiff drink after so many shows. I
I
was
know.
like, that'd be a
Yeah,
good one.
I know.
Uh,
I miss it.
what is what is one of your least favorite things to eat, or what's something you're not going to touch it?
I have never tried cottage cheese.
Ugh, you're not missing anything. Ugh, no,
Just the text. I
no.
can't do the
The
texture.
texture,
It's
I'm
too
a
sticky.
texture person,
Yeah,
and there's some things
yeah,
I won't do. Just the texture hits me, not even before the taste does. Cottage cheese is
yeah,
one of
yeah.
those. Oysters is another
Good.
one. I can't take oysters.
I've managed to get through it because oysters taste so delicious. So
I don't
yeah,
know. No, once they hit, I let it sit on my tongue too long, and it was awful.
yeah, yeah,
I couldn't do it. Maybe I should. It was a long time ago. All right,
yeah.
now this might be an interesting question for you because of
Mm.
your profession. Who is the
Hmm.
most famous person you've ever met? You might have a couple of good ones.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty lucky, fortunate in that way. But I would say Charlie Watts, the
Yeah,
drummer
that's a
for
good
the
one.
Rolling Stones.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's a pretty big one, I would say too.
Hmm.
That's a
Yeah,
good one.
he's a pretty big deal. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. What does a dream vacation look like for you?
Ah, laying on the beach with a margarita and some tacos and guacamole close by, my feet in the water.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
not
I
bad.
love a beach vacation. I love a beach
Yeah,
vacation.
that
I
would
like
be
getting out
good.
and seeing the sights and all of that too, but man, I'm overdue for a beach vacation.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Something with a lot of lime in it and a taco. Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
I go with that. Uh, and my last question for you is what's one of your core memories? Something you're never going to ever forget, even when like dementia sets in and you've forgotten everybody's name, but you're still going to babble on about this one thing.
Hmm. I I think it was probably I mean, it has to be time spent with my family,
Yeah.
especially I think about, when I was a kid, my parents had a boat on the Colorado River, on the border of Arizona, and we would go there for holidays. And early in the morning, my dad was a real early riser like me, and he would wake me up, and we'd get in the boat and go out on this glassy water, and he would cut the engine, and we watched the sun rise over the rocks. And that
You
is
had some meditation
um,
from an early age then. watching the
Yeah,
sunrise.
yeah. Magical. Yeah.
My son, he wanted to, well, we took a trip to Tampa Bay a few years
Mm.
back. And so we went out onto the beach at Tampa Bay. And I had never been on the Gulf Coast before. And I couldn't believe you can just walk in the water for
Mm.
a long time. And it never really gets higher than your waist for forever.
Uh-huh.
It's very shallow.
Wow.
And that blew my mind. Because I'm used to, the beach of California or the beach here on the East Coast. And, you get out a little bit and then, and it
Yeah.
drops. But there, no, at Tampa Bay, you can just walk, I don't know, a couple hundred yards, and it's just there at your
Nice.
waist. So we sat and we watched the sunset one night, just sitting there like a football field away from the beach. That we were that far out,
Wow.
and it was just sitting in there, and I couldn't believe. I was like, "This is just mind blowing." So
Wow.
yeah,
What
it's
a beautiful.
crazy.
I bet your son remembers that too. Yeah,
Yep,
that's lovely.
that's a good one too for us.
Yeah.
All right, it's been a joy talking to you, Clem. I've really
I've
enjoyed it.
enjoyed it so much.
Thank you so much for your book. I highly recommend everybody if they want to hear some stories about being in a band, traveling across the U.S. and playing Zeppelin tunes, and then get some spiritual healing while you're doing that. Definitely check out her book as well, From Bonham to Buddha and Back. You will not be disappointed. And if you're like me, I suggest the audiobook because it's very great to listen to. You have a great voice to listen to. And yeah, so thank you very much for coming on. It was great.
Thank you so much. Thanks for all the great questions. And I
Yeah.
so appreciate you listening to the book. So, Matt, thanks. And thanks for all of the work you do with kids. That's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got 6 more years and then I'll be ready to go. I got 6 more. I'll be ready to, then I can
It,
focus on my drumming career after I get there.
yeah, there you go. There you
uh,
go.
remember, folks, find what makes you happy and get to it. There's a lot of life out there to live, so make it a good one. Be kind, be nice, be good, and everybody have a great week.